Welcome to another episode of Diary of a Wannabe Comedian with me, Belle, a wannabe comedian. You have no idea how many times I've started this podcast today. I just can't get the words out. Probably because I haven't got a huge amount to say creatively, but I do have some news in terms of my kitchen worktops. You may recall that they tried to fit some last week and snapped them. Well, they came back yesterday and fitted them and they look beautiful. And I'm very, very excited by my kitchen. If only things worked. So I've still got no plumbing to speak of, and obviously the oven and the hob and anything attached to the worktop doesn't work. Fingers crossed that gets done tomorrow. In terms of actual creativity, I thought I would talk about something that's been bumbling around in my brain, which is keeping a Commonplace book. Now, I'd not heard of this before, and it came from me watching YouTube, because that's where I get all my knowledge from, YouTube. I was watching YouTube and there's a guy, he's a philosopher, and he hooked me in because he was talking about stationery. And I'm a sucker for a new bit of stationery. I have a book for everything. I've got a gratitude, I wouldn't call it diary, but I've got a gratitude book. Sometimes I do morning pages, not every day, because that's quite tough. And I've got lots of books for my comedy courses. So yeah, I love a good book, me. Oh, one for my animation, obviously. But this is why he pulled me in. It's because he was talking about all the various books he has. And one of them he has is a Commonplace book. So I've done a bit more research since then and established it's basically a book. Well, it's like creating your own encyclopedia, really. It's usually on one topic, and you just write down anything that you come across that interests you, and generally you explore that concept or saying or whatever. So I think Oscar Wilde had one, and so if it's good enough for him, it's good enough for me, because I think he's a very funny writer. I enjoy his stuff. I mean, Picture of Dorian Gray is brilliant. If you haven't read it, you should read it. It's brilliant, and it's got some really super funny lines in it, or at least I think they're super funny. So anyway, he had one, and I'm thinking of creating one on comedy-based thing, or creativity, maybe comedy largely, because one of the things that Logan says often, and he does attribute it to the original people that said it, whose name escapes me at the moment, I think they're in improv, but he says all creativity comes out of play. And that is so true, because I've done so many courses over the years, but I have done, one particularly with Logan that build you up and really find your funny bone, and then ones that just do the opposite, actually, that detract and cause no end of problems in your comedy. But maybe that says more about me, I don't know, and how much value I put on teachers, because I'm sure a lot of people can take what anybody says and apply it to themselves in a way appropriate to themselves, if that makes sense. Whereas me, I'm kind of, particularly if I've paid for this, these people are experts, therefore I must do whatever they say. And that's not always the case, particularly in comedy. You really have to find your own voice, find your own funny. And what is hilarious performed by one person just simply isn't by another. And I think of all the disciplines, comedy has the least amount of discipline going. So anyway, that's one area I'd like to explore in my Commonplace book. And the other one is something I saw recently when Ricky Gervais was interviewed by someone, again on YouTube. And he said, to lead the orchestra, you have to turn your back on the audience. And I thought, what a lovely idea. And you can see he absolutely has lived by that. And I'd love to live by that, because I think I self-edit far too much with my comedy, because I just feel that if I don't, I'm going to get cancelled. And I don't want to be cancelled before I've even started. So I guess when you are as big as he is and you mega bucks and you really don't care whether you get your next job or not, I guess you can do and say as you please. But I like the idea, even if I don't think it's particularly practical at this end of the scale in stand-up comedy. I'm not saying that doesn't work for other disciplines. I'm sure it does, particularly art, painting and the like. I think people who really just go to hell with it, I'm doing this anyway, do really well. In fact, I have an example of a friend that I did a course with, that mixed media course that I did last year. He was on a course and the stuff he was producing was interesting at the time. And I'm using that with a furrowed brow. And the teacher was clearly trying to rein him in because he wasn't necessarily following the rest of the class. I've seen on Instagram, he has his own exhibition and his artwork. I've followed it and I do think it's really good. He's just improved so much. But he actually has his own exhibition. Now, if he'd have listened to the teacher, who knows which direction he'd have gone in. Something we can all learn from, I think. Well, especially me. Much love and gratitude.